Right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. So I believe today is Daf Samach Daled, Maseches Eruvin. So we'll actually hopefully gonna get onto Samach Daled. We'll just be a little less than a blot behind after today. So we left off actually at the top line of Samach Beis and Beis, but because I moved pretty quickly. So this is actually Saturday's Daf. This is Shabbos. This is Daf. So Amar Mar. So we saw this earlier. Chatzero shel akum harehi kedir shel behema. So normally, when you have a chatzer that's shared by multiple people, so everyone has to join in the chatzer. If everyone's reshus is the chatzer, then you're allowed to go ahead and carry from your house into the chatzer because it's yours, right? Because everyone has reshus into it. But if somebody who is attached to the chatzer is not part of the chutzner, then it prohibits others from basically being able to go ahead and carry in and out of the chutzner because the chutzner is not for everyone's. It's some people have limited access and therefore it wouldn't work. So an akum is treated like an animal pen. Now, animal pen does not aser. It's not considered like one of the people attached to the chutzner. So a guy is the same, an akum is the same. So the guy says, what do you mean? A guy doesn't ask. Look at our Mishnah. One who lives, who shares a chatzir with an akum, with a non-Jew, right? He asks it if the akum does not have some sort of lease or some sort of eruv with him. So hareza iser love. So the kasha had the isay had the lessay. No, one is if he's there and one if he's not there. If he's there in the house, then it's considered like he's there and therefore it prohibits it. If he's not there, he's not around, then it'll be mutter to go ahead and carry in and out of the chatzir. Mike Saver, the Gemara says, I understand. What do you hold? If you hold that the house, even without the owners, is considered like he's there, then even if a guy is not there, right, it's considered like it's there, and it didn't share in the Erev, and therefore it's no good. And if you hold that dira without owners is not considered dira, it's considered like nobody's there. Even if it was owned by a Jew who was not joined in the Erev, right, it shouldn't, hurt the Erev, which we know that's not the case. So our answer is really, we hold that if somebody owns a house but he's not around, it's considered like he's not there. So why is it different whether it's a Yisrael who owns the house is not there, and that would prohibit carrying if he's not joined in the Erev, or if a guy owns it and he's not there, it does not prohibit it. So if Yisrael, in a case of a Jew, if a Jew is there, so he's there and he doesn't join in the Erev, therefore he asks carrying it. And if he's not there, then the Rabbanar Geyser says, no, they make a gzer that even if the Jew is not there, he still prohibits the Erev, therefore you have to make an Erev with him whether he's there or not. However, when it comes to an Akum, the Chi'i say, when he's there, Gzera Shemilam Masa. Remember, the Gzera by the Akum was that really he's no shaykhs to the yard, now carrying it. But what's the reason why we do it? We don't want a one versus one, right? In other words, if there's one Jew and one guy sharing the yard, so therefore we're going to make it hard on the Jew. Why? Because we don't want a Jew to go ahead and share a chatzir one-on-one with an akum, right? Because he's going to learn from his deeds. So therefore, Shemi Mami Masav. So therefore, if it's a guy when he's there, then there's a gzera. Ki say aser. Therefore, when he's there, a guy is there. Therefore, the gzera is in place. However, ki say. However, when the guy is not there, lo aser, he is not. It is not prohibited. The Gemara asks, "Avi chilase lo aser." Or if the guy is not there, he doesn't forbid it because he doesn't, he didn't join the Erev because he's not around. So that's okay. It's like it's like he's not a partner in the chutzner. But tonight we learn in the Mishnah, if the guy leaves his house, so he goes to someone leaves his house and he goes to another town, right? Whether it's a Jew or a guy, he asers the chutzner according to the Pina Remer because he didn't join because he owns property there and he didn't join before he left. So our answer is Hasan Dasi B'Yomi. Over there, if there's a chance he can come back in the day, then it's Aser. But if he's not coming back in the day at all, then it's completely mutter. It's like he's not there. Now, Omar Rav Yehuda. Now we're switch a little bit. Now it gets a little bit fun. Omar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, who was brought in our Mishnah, where the Mishnah appears on the bottom of Samach Aleph Amud Beis. So over there is Machlokas. Rabbi Eliezer Yaakov says one Jew and one guy is okay. It's only he only answers if there's two Jews there. So halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, right? Halachas like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. And then Rav Huna Omar Minhag Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rav Huna said, he didn't say halacha. He says the minhag is to be noheg like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Yochanan Omar no goam Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. And Rabbi Yochanan said that the nation people they acted like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov in his case. And Omar le Abayla Rabbi Yosef. So Kaim Alon Mishnah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kavanaki. We learned that which Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov has ever stated in the Mishnah. It's very clean text. And he's very always precise, and therefore usually the halacha will follow him. So in that case, and then Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel says halacha like Rabbi Yaakov, in other words, which is pretty pashut. So mahu liur b'makom rabo. Now, is he allowed to go ahead and paskin this in the place of his Rebbe? Now, we know that one should not go ahead and paskin in the presence of his Rebbe. Why? Because basically it's a lack of covet for his Rebbe. If there's a shaila asked, so he shouldn't make it. Says, ask the Rav. Don't ask me, even if he knows the answer. So something which is so easy, right? Or pasha, like the halach, saying halach is like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. If we always know that his brises are kav and aki, so is that a violation, right, of saying it? Someone says, "Oh, you're not allowed to kill somebody," in front, and his rebbe's there. Oh, so is he paskening halach? You're not allowed to kill in front of his rebbe? What? It's pashut, right? So Amalei afilu biyasa bekuscha. So he says, even to answer a shaila about eating eggs with kutach, right, type of dip, right? So such a case, which is, I guess, a clear answer. I guess is mutter. I don't know. I'm guessing, right? Even an egg with kutach, you can't even answer that shaila in the presence of your rebbe. So even things that are pashut really shouldn't be answered. And by name
are we on Samach Daled?
Oh, we're on Samach Beis and Beis. We're continuing where we left off.
Sorry, apologize.
No problem. Like 6 lines from the bottom of Samach Beis and Beis. So by name Rav Chizda, Kol Shani Rav Huna, all the years when they asked from Rav Chizda, Kol Shani Rav Huna, right? Rav Chizda was a Talmud of Rav Huna, and therefore, while Rav Huna was alive, Rav Chizda never answered any shilas. And I'm Rabbi Yaakov bar Abba Levaye, Kigad Megillas Tainas Dechsiva Menacha. What about questions regarding things that are written in Megillas Tainas, which are written and can be found? Mahu, what's halacha there? Loirik, can you go ahead and pass and ask the Rabbi, right, in the place of where your Rabbi is? So he says. So even answering a case of having egg with kutach, right, type of like a dip, like a spoiled milk or something like that with the yolk, I don't know. So it's some sort of a dip that they had to have it with, which is the dairy, to have it with eggs. Even that, when they asked Rav Chizda while Rav Huna was alive, he didn't answer. So we see, don't even answer any shalas when Rabbi's alive. And Rav Chizda ori bekafri b'shayin Rav Huna. However, Rav Chizda, right, as we said, he's a Talmud of Rav Huna. He would answer shilas in Kafri, which was basically a town far away. Now, as long as you're far away, then you would go ahead and answer shilas, even though his Rebbe is alive. Just he was around. He was several miles away. Turn the page, and Rav Hamnuna, Ari Becharasa, the Arges, Beshani the Rav Chizda, Rav Huna also, that he would paskin in the Charta, the Arges is also placed while his Rebbe, Rav Chizda, was alive. Now Ravina Sar Sakina Bavel. Ravina, he paskin out a knife to use in Bavel. Similarly, Rav Ashi, my time of Mar Hachi. Why did you go ahead and inspect the knife when your Rebbe is alive? What's the problem? Rav Hamnuna paskin shilas in Charta the Arges while his Rebbe Rav Chizda was alive. Lavuri, no, it said up there he didn't say those halachas. So he answered no. Itamar Amar Le. Samarle Lavori, right? He didn't say anything. Samarle, no, Itamar Uri, Itamar Lori. Some say he did teach it, some say he didn't teach it. Vishnei Rav Huna Derabe Hudlari. During the years of Rav Huna, who was hired Rav Chizda, when Rav Huna was alive, he didn't teach that at all, even in a far out of town. However, but when Rav Chizda, which was his Rebbe, right now he had two Rebbeim. He had Rav Huna, who was up here, and then he had Rav Chizda. So Rav Chizda, while he was alive, if he wasn't around, he would pass. And then why? The Talmud Chaver delay Havi, right? Because he's a Talmud Chaver. In other words, he wasn't just like a Rebbe Talmud student, right? They were more equals. They were more Talmud chavirs. So since they were Talmud chavirs, therefore he was able to go ahead and paskin while he was alive. V'ananami Talmud chavir. And me also, says Ravina, I'm also like a Talmud Chavir. Therefore, I was able to go ahead and, I guess in the presence of Rav Ashi, right? And therefore, since we're Talmud Chavirs, I was able to go ahead and paskin even though he was alive. And Amar Rava says, Rava Rabbanu Chazal Nafshe, a Talmud Chacham is able to go ahead and show himself, paskin for himself. And Ravina, one time, Ravina he was in Mechuza Asi Ushpizchane Sakina V'Kamachvele. One time, I guess he was staying at an inn, and they wanted to show him the knife before they used it to go ahead and shecht and serve them dinner. So they show him the knife. So Amarle, Zinam Taylor Rava, go ahead and show the knife to Rava. So Amarle, Lois Savamar Hadam Rava. You don't hold like that, which Rava says. Tubin Rabbanu Chazal Nafshe, that a Talmud Chacham go ahead and paskin for himself. So why can't you paskin this knife for yourself? So I'm like, Anna Mizvin Zavini, but I'm actually buying it from you. So it's not really not for me, it's really for you. So I'm pasking for you. So if you're asking a Shaila, don't ask me, ask Rava. If it was me myself, I wouldn't have to buy it, then yeah, I can go ahead and pass it. But this is really for you, in essence, for me to buy off you. Therefore, go ahead and please ask Rava. All right, skip the parentheses. Rabbi Elazar Mehagrunia, the Rav Abba Bar Tachlifa, Ikla Lebei Ravacha Brei Davika. So one time, okay, just let's get the name straight. So Rabbi Elazar and Magronia and Rav Abba Bar Tachlifa, the two of them, okay, they went to go ahead and visit Rav Acha Brei Davika. They visited Rav Acha Brei Davika. The Asrei the Rav Acha Bar Yaakov in the town of Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, who was like the Rav of the town. So they went to Rav Acha Brei Davika's house in the town of where Rav Acha Bar Yaakov was the Rav. So by Rav Acha Brei Davika the Mevid Lahu Igla Tilsa, he wanted to go ahead and make for his hosts, right? Rav Acha Bar Yaakov wanted to go for his two guests. He wanted to go ahead and make them basically this delicacy of calf meat, right? Igla Tilsa, which is grown to be a third. Aisi Sakina V'Kamachlu. So he went to get and show the two guests the knives. Here's the knife. I'm going to use it. So they said to him, Rav Acha Bar Tachlifa Lo Liche Shlei. The Saba. Why don't you go ahead and so he said, maybe go ahead and show the Rav of the town. So then the other, that was one of the guests said, and the other guest said, right? No, you can. We're Talmud Chachamim. We can show ourselves. As we can pass, and we don't need to go to the Rav of the town. However, Chazi v'Yanish, right? So he said, Chazi l'nafshe. Chazi. So he said v'Yanish. So they saw it. They checked it. And they were punished. And Rabbi Eliezer Magrani, why was he punished? So what did he do wrong? If you're allowed to go ahead and pass him for yourself, and they inspected the knife, so why was he punished for inspecting the knife? So Shani Hasam, these over there, since they already brought covet and honor, says, oh, let's go ask the town Rav. And you said, no, we don't need to. We can do it ourselves. That's why he was punished. Some say, no, Shani Rav Acha Bar Yaakov, the Muflak. Some say Rav Acha Bar Yaakov was so, high. He wasn't just a Rav. He was like the Gadol Ador. So since he was the Gadol Ador, therefore lack of respect that affected it. Amar Rava, however, says Rava regarding paskening in front of your Rebbe, however, to separate, to stop someone from doing an isser, you don't have to wait for your Rebbe, right? You can even go ahead and jump in and stop the person from going ahead and sinning, even though you're sort of quote unquote paskening in front of your Rebbe. And Ravina Havi Yasif Kamed Rav Ashi, one time Ravina was sitting for Rav Ashi. We're on the first wide lines of Samech Gimel Amud Aleph. So Ravina one time is in for Rav Ashi. So he saw somebody basically tying something to a tree, his donkey to a tree on Shabbos. Right? Can't use a tree on Shabbos. A person might come tear branches, and this is Xeri can't use a tree. So So he yelled at the guy, hey, don't tie it. The guy ended up not listening to him anyways. So he said, this guy should be in Cherem, right? If he's not listening, he's violating Shabbos, he doesn't care. So Amarle, and he was wondering, in this case, did I violate? Was I considered to be a chutzpan, right? Was I considered to be chutzpah for me basically speaking out in front of my Rebbe, right? I was here with my Rebbe, but I shouted out to the person, hey, you can't do that, that's usher. So he answered them, Ein chachma ve'in tfuna ve'in eitz neged Hashem. Right? We don't care about chachma and kavod and eitz neged Hashem. In other words, when it comes to Devar Hashem, that there is no kavod. So in other words, there is no lack of kavod to wait for your Rebbe to go ahead and pass it. If you see somebody violating the Torah, and violating the Torah is basically a dishonor to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So therefore, one can stop him even without giving honor to his Rebbe. And kol makom sheish bo chil Hashem,
guy was doing what the guy was doing. Yeah, it wasn't usher deraisa. It was usher midrabanan.
Correct.
Right. So,
but it's still considered to be a violation because
except we have a principle mutav yeh shogegim alihim mazidi. It's better that they do something by mistake than they do something on purpose.
That's only said.
They're not going to.
Right, but obviously here it was said he thought that the person would listen, would adhere to the warning. And he didn't, which is why he suggested Perel Cherem. Obviously, like you're saying, had he known, then yeah, maybe we don't do that because mutav shia shogeg. So in this case, we say kol makom sheish bo chil Hashem. Anytime there's chil Hashem, ein cholkin kavod l'Rav. We don't go ahead and wait for respect to Rav. We're worried more about the chil Hashem. And Amar Rava b'fanav aser v'chai misa. If you do it in front of your paskin the shilas in front of your Rebbe, it's aser and chai misa b'shemayim shelo b'fanav. If it's not in front of him, aser v'ein chai misa. It is aser, but nevertheless you're not chai misa. Ushol b'fanav lo. If it's not in front of him, you're not chai misa. About time learn Rabbi Rabbi Yezer Omer loy meisi b'nei Aaron asher halachim b'nei Moshe Rabban. Right. The reason why b'nei Aaron, the two of Aaron's sons died, is because they paskin halacha, right? B'fnei Moshe, in front of Moshe, Rabban, the Rebbe. So my darish, where does he see this? It says v'nosnu b'nei Aaron ha'kohen eish al mizbech. So it says the b'nei Aaron, they themselves, right? They decided to go ahead and place a fire upon the mizbech. So amru afal pisha eish yarez mishamayim. Even though a fire comes down from the heavens, mitzvah lahavim min hahedyot, it's still a mitzvah to go ahead and bring your own fire for that. The Talmud echad. Okay, so we see over here. I guess Brisa goes on. It says, "V'tamin echad Rabbi Eliezer." One time, Rabbi Eliezer had a Talmud. Halach b'fanav. He paskin hashayla in front of Rabbi Eliezer, and Omar Rabbi Eliezer le'ima shalom ishto. So said Rabbi Eliezer to ima shalom. Right, that was his wife. Tmei ani im yoytz eshnasa. Right, I'll be curious if this guy finishes out his year. Lo haitzi shnasa, and the guy he died early. Samarlo naviata. She said to him, "Are you a navi?" He says, Amar Allah, he said to her, Lo Navi Anochi, Lo Ben Navi Anochi, I'm not a prophet, I'm not the son of a prophet. This is what I learned. Kol Hamayra Halach Fnei Rabba, whoever goes ahead and paskins Shilas, right, in the presence of his Rebbe, Chai Misa, he is Chai Misa B'dei Shemayim. Amar B'chan, Amar Rabbi Yechran, Oisa Talmud, Yehuda ben Guria Shemo, V'haya Rachok Mimeno Shalosh Parsos. So that Talmud was, Yehuda ben Guria was his name, and he was actually 3 parsa away from his Rebbe, Rabbi Eliezer, and nevertheless, he was punished. So Gemara says, "B'fanavaya." Well, what do you mean, right? It says, "B'fanavaya," right? Was he in front of him? It says that he was 3 parsa away. So how can you bring this as a proof, right? That a person can't he can't even do it, right? In his chayv misa in his presence, right? If it says over here he was 3 parsa away, right? 3 parsa away is like 12 mil. It's a far distance, right? So this whole brisa was brought as a proof to say b'fanav. Right, you're chayiv misa. So, but this is not b'fanav. There's shalosh parsos. So, shalosh parsos covers. I will time according to you. Shemo v'shem aviv lama. Right? Why does it say his name and his fasting? What does it make a difference who the student was? Yehuda ben Guria. Right? Elish leitama mashal haya. So you won't say it was a mashal. Right? And therefore, just like you said it actually happened, so too they did more of a description, right? They said that he lived 3 parsos away. It doesn't mean that he, at the time when he passed it, he was right with him. It just means that he, when he was living with him, that's, when he was living there, that's how far he lived. But obviously when he passed it was befanav, and that's the reason why he died. And Omar, Rabbi Chia, Bar Abba, Rabbi Yechon, Kol Hamayra Halacha Rabba, Roi Lahachish Nachash, whoever goes ahead and passes halacha, right, is fit for a snake to go ahead and bite him. Shnemar's pasuk says, Vayan, Eliu ben Barchiel Habuzi, Vayomer Tzira Ani Liyomim, right? Alkain Zachalti. So he says over there, he says, I'm young in years. Basically, I'm young in years. I'm not the Rebbe, and therefore, he basically swallowed his words. He didn't answer, right? Uksiv im chamas zoichli offer, right? So it says the same word as azachal, right? From zoichla is also from the venom of the serpent of the snake, right? That's so we see that if a person goes ahead and if he would have gone ahead and answered despite he was too young, that he would have been with the venom of a snake. And Ziri Omar. Rabbi Chanina Nikra as Afar Ziri. I think Afar Ziri, that's part of the pasuk, right? Yeah, and Amar Rabbi Chanina Nikra Chayta. Not only that, he's also called a Chayta, a sinner. Shnamar the pasuk says, "So believe tzafanti amrisecha laman leechta lecha." So he says, right, I hid it in my heart in order that I shouldn't sin. In other words, I had the answer, but I didn't speak up. I didn't say the halacha in order that I wouldn't sin. So obviously, if he went ahead and spoke up the halacha in front of his Rebbe, he's called a sinner. And Rav Hamnuna. Rami Ksiv, he says the two psukim say, "Believe me, tzafanti amrisecha." It says over there, in my heart I hid in your words. Ksiv says over there, "Besarti tzadei bekal rav," and then it says David HaMelech went ahead and stated, and that said all the halachas. So what do you mean? Did David HaMelech keep the words to himself, or did he go ahead and basically, and give shir and pass an halacha? So like kasha kamazman shira yiri kayim and kamazman shein yiri kayim. So one is a case of when his Rebbe was alive, that when Shira Hayiri was Kayim, and therefore he did not pass him halacha. And that's when he was quiet, and when he was not around, right? And then that's when when he wasn't around, that's when he went ahead and did paskin halacha. And Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Zavda Kol Noisim Atanasov L'Koyin Echad Mevi Rov L'Olam. Whoever gives all his truma and his matanos kahuna only to the same kohen brings destruction to the world. Shinamar Zabas says, Ira Yiri Haya Kohen David. Right? So it says, Ira Hayiri, he was the kohen to David. Now, David who the Havi Kohen, Kuli Amalo lo, right? He was only a kohen to David, but nobody else. Elo Shaya Mashagil Masnasa. Rather, David HaMelech used to give him all his matanos to him. The Ksiv Basket says right after that, Vayira B'Yimei David. There was a famine in the days of David, so you see that there was punishment for giving or destruction for giving all this the matanas kahuna to the same kohen. Rabbi Yezer Rami Amardina Sama Gedulaso. He's lowered from his gedula if he paskins in front. Shnamar Zabas says Vayomer Elazar HaKohen El Anshi Atzava. The Goymer it says Elazar HaKohen went ahead and he paskin and he told them halachas of war in front of David and Afagav Damar Lahu La'achi Abed Tziva Vayisi Lo Tziva Ivar. He said clearly, this was given to my father's brother, my uncle Moshe Rabbeinu, and it wasn't commanded to me. But I'm just telling it to you. Afilu Hachi. Nevertheless, he was punished for speaking up as opposed to Moshe Rabbeinu giving the halachas himself. Where do we see that? It says Lifnei Elazar HaKohen Yamoy. It says over there that you, Yeshua ben Nun, will be, I guess, Elazar Cohen basically will be your right-hand man. However, we don't see anywhere where Yeshua ben Nun turned to Elazar Cohen after this. So we see that even though he was supposed to be, Gedulasa, he was supposed to be a Gadol, nevertheless, we don't find that he was used, so he was lowered from his Gedulasa. And Omar, Rabbi Levi, called Demaisiv Milo Kami the Rebbe Azul Yishol Beloy Vlad. Right, whoever goes ahead and answers a word in front of his Rebbe, right, that was answered to him, he will basically he will not have children. Shnamar the pasuk says Vayan Yoshua ben Nun Mesharis Moshe B'Churov, and Yoshua ben Nun answered the question. He went on and he says, from who is the Mesharis of Moshe, Vayomer Adoni Moshe Kilim. And he says that Moshe Rabbeinu said they should be locked up. In other words, he answered the shiloh of what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Even though he quoted Moshe Rabbeinu, he shouldn't have spoken out. He should have let Moshe Rabbeinu himself go ahead and answer. So this was when there was Nevuah Sheker, and as never as he spoke of Ksiv, and then it says over there, Nun, Beno, it says somebody else, it says Nun was his son, and Yeshua Beno, and Yeshua was Nun's son. But it doesn't say who was Yeshua's son. So therefore you see that Yeshua ben Nun was punished, right, without having children. Upligi the Rabbi Abba bar Abba. Actually, there's a argument with Rabbi Abba bar the Rabbi Abba bar Papa. Damar Rabbi Abba bar Papa. Lo nenash Yoshua el b'shvil shabitas Yisrael lailacham peravio. That he says that Yeshua was punished because he was mavatal Yisrael from one night of puravush. And the pasuk says Vayibiyas Yeshua b'Yericho v'Yisein Avayar. And it was the days of when they were conquering Yericho, and he lifted up his eyes and he saw a person, a malach, it says Vayomer lo. So he said, no, I'm Hashem's messenger, and I've his officer, right? And I've come for now. In other words, I've come to punish for now. So Amarlo, Emosh Bital, so Amarlo, Emosh bitaltem tamid shel berabayim. V'achshav bitaltem Talmud Torah. It says yesterday you guys were mevatel the tamid shel berabayim. You didn't bring the tamid shel berabayim, and now you're mevatel Talmud Torah. Al ezem basi. So said Yoshua to them, which one did you come for? So I'm ato basi. Right, I came for now for the Talmud Torah. Miyad immediately. Vayelach Yoshua ba'alahu b'seich emek. They said over there, Yoshua went into the valley. And what type of emek? V'amar Rabbi Yechon melamed shehalach lava mukol shel halacha. He went to go ahead into the depths, to the valleys of halacha. The Gemiri, and we learn that the Kol Zman Sha'aron Shechina Shirayim Shalom Kaiman Rasum Tashin Mita. And since Aaron was using the Urim V'Tumim and it was not placed back in its place because he was learning all night to basically make up for the Bittul Torah of that night because they weren't waging war at night, and therefore they're Chayv and Talmud Torah. So therefore, since the Aaron was out, it was not placed back because he was using it for his Amuka shel halacha. So therefore, and since the Aaron was out, and therefore we have it was a halacha that there is also b'tashmish shemita when the Aaron is not in its place. So therefore, you see that he was mabatel that night the Klal Yisrael from Perivia from that night, and therefore he was punished for that. And Amar Shmuel Bar Ina Mishmei Derav Gadol Talmud Torah Yais Merkavas Tamidim. We see over here that the Talmud Torah is even greater than Hakravas Tamidim. Damarle Atabazi, because he said, "I'm coming for now. I'm coming from the Avera from now. I'm coming for the Avera of the Bittul Torah and not the Avera of being Mavatal the Korban Tamid." And Amar Rabun Amar Rav Kol Hayashim Bekila Sheish Vishta Shirimba Allah Kasav Aimer the Shiami Tirgashun Mibase Tanugeha. Person who goes ahead and sleeps in the same room, in the same tent, in the same room as a man and his wife, about him says the pasuk that he removes the pleasures of the women. And Rav Yosef, and Avamar Rav Yosef says, "Afilo b'ishta'id nida." Even she's a nida, right? There's still pleasure from being in the same room with her husband, right? Just being together. And Rav Omar, "Inishta nida he tavola bracha." What do you mean? I understand if he's in the same room and they can't have relations, so it should be a bracha, right? Not a curse. Velohi, however, no. Velohi, right? So you say no. Until now, who was with her, right? She's been, she's married, many years, and she's been a nida before and been with her husband. So obviously that they're able to go ahead and behave appropriately even while she's a nida, and therefore it's not a good thing to go ahead and sleep in that room. Fine. Now back to Eruvin. So ho mavuya dahavi dayer. Balachman baristik. One time there was a mavui that was shared. There was a chassidit that was shared. A certain guy was there, Lachman baristik. So Amrlei Ugala B'Shistecha. All right, let us lease your property so we can use your property. Therefore, all of us will be able to go ahead and use the Eruv. However, he didn't go ahead and rent to them. So also Amrlei Labai. So he told Labai what happened. What should we do? So Amrlei told him Zilu Betilu B'Shesaychu Legabichat. Right. Here's an idea. Go ahead. Let's say there's 3 other Jews there. So it's 4 total people, 1 guy, 3 Jews. Have 2 of the Jews basically give up their property, give up their rights to 1 Jew. So basically now the mavui is basically shared by 1 Yisrael and 1 Akum, 1-on-1, right? And that was the case in our mission, 1-on-1. And they were chad havile yachid b'makom nachri. And therefore it's a case of a yachid b'makom nachri, the yachid b'makom nachri lo yaser. And therefore 1-on-1, the nachri doesn't go ahead and aser according to the Chachamim. So according to Tanakh, so Amarle, midei hu time el delashich the dari. What do you mean? The only reason why he doesn't ruin it, right, is because is only in order it's not. The reason why it's okay is because it's not normal for a Jew to live 1-on-1, right? To live one. That's why there's no gzer in such a case. The reason why God doesn't ruin it 1-on-1 because it's not normal because they normally don't live together. But over here, if you're saying it's 1-on-1, it's havga kadari. But over here, he is there, so maybe it should be aser. So now we say no, since going ahead and giving up your shoes to one other person is something can be considered to be not common. And therefore, since it's not common, therefore the Rabbanan were not geyser, and therefore, once again, the guy will not go ahead and ask the area for you. Because remember, we say really a guy is like an animal pen, right? An animal pen doesn't ask for anything. It's only cases where a geyser says, oh, we don't want this case. But since it's out of the ordinary case where we have 2 other Jews giving up their rishus to 1 Jew, therefore there is no gzer in this case. And also Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua Amri L'Shmaitze came the Rava. So Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua told Rava this psak. So he said to him, Im Kain bitalta taras erim yosem mavui. If that's the case, it'd be mevatel, the mavui, right? In this case, right? people, there's no Eruv needed, and therefore there's no Eruv, they'll be Matal. So our answer is no, the Marvi will make an Eruv. We'll make an Eruv here, and therefore people will realize that there's an Eruv between me and the other Jews. So Yamar Eruv Ma'ib Makom Nachi. But if that's the case, then people see an Eruv, they'll say, oh, you can just make an Eruv with a guy there, even though the guy didn't go ahead and join. So you can't go ahead and make an Eruv so people aren't confused that there's no Eruv with multiple Jews, because they'll also see a guy, and they'll think, oh, you can make an Eruv, right, even with Goyim, even if they don't participate. So our answer is no, Demach reason, we'll announce it. So what about the children, the next, and their children? I mean, people won't know. People will just say, oh, I remember as a child, my father, we had an Eruv, and there was a guy there. So we just ignore the Goyim, and you can have an Eruv with Goyim, which is not the case. So what about that case? Go ahead, have one of the guys go ahead and befriend him, and then he'll go ahead and ask to go ahead and use part of his place. And then the guy, okay, since they're good friends, yeah, you can use that area in my house or my yard to be, you can store something there. The Havilek is Schiroi Likuto. It'll be a person who's a seicher, basically a person who works there, or a helper. And basically, if someone is a worker or a helper on a property, they have some quote-unquote bailus there. They have some sort of ownership there. And therefore, since he now has a friendship with this guy, and he's allowed to go ahead and store his lawnmower or his bike on his property, it's like it's his property. And therefore, since it's like the Jew's property now, he can go ahead and lease it or make an Eruv with the others. Even if his employee or he's his helper, he can go ahead and give permission for the Eruv, and that's sufficient. And Amr Lei, just finishing up, two more lines. What did it say? There's 5 people, right, using the person's house. Not in this case, but in general case, 5 people using someone's house. Separate halacha when it comes to an employee can lease out, or one of the helpers can lease out. If we say, right, to be makil, where do we say that each one of them, right, have to go ahead and lease out their area in order to be machmer? No, who says it? It's a kula, and therefore, if one of the 5 do it, it should be okay to use that mavli. All right, we'll stop here at Gufa. This is actually today's blot. So Mitzvah Shem, tomorrow we'll continue here. We'll try and catch up a little bit, but Mitzvah Shem we'll catch up by the end of the week. Everyone have a wonderful day, and
Shkayach.
Bye bye.
Have a great day.